Chapter 331. Songwen traveled several hundred miles without encountering a single cultivator. Even the surrounding environment and the dark river showed little change, as if this dark river had no end. Suddenly, a man-sized cave entrance appeared on the left rock wall. This cave had obvious signs of artificial excavation. From the markings, it seemed that this entrance had been opened for many years. Songwen stopped, carefully searching near the cave entrance for traces left by the sacred goo. Upon entering the cave and walking for a short distance, another underground river appeared before Songwen. Compared to the previous underground river, this one was significantly smaller, and the water flowed more gently. As soon as he exited the passage, Songwen noticed vague figures moving several hundred meters downstream in the riverbed. He quickly signaled the sacred goo to sneak closer. The other party also noticed Songwen but did not appear as cautious as he was, at least not on the surface. The person spoke up directly, introducing himself. "Benefactor, this humble monk is Jie Hui from the Mixed Yuan Temple. May I ask your name?" It turned out to be Jie Hui. As he spoke, he walked straight towards Songwen. His pace was neither fast nor slow, as if he was not at all worried that the suddenly appearing stranger could pose a threat to him. Instead, he voluntarily revealed his roots. It gave a feeling of utmost sincerity. If Songwen did not know this person's behavior, he could easily be deceived by the genuine demeanor Jie Hui was pretending to show, thereby lowering his guard. At that moment, the sacred goo sent a message indicating that there was no sign of Jie Wu and Jie Se in the vicinity. In other words, Jie Hui was alone. For some unknown reason, the three had separated. Songwen's eyes lit up. Jie Hui might have a more detailed map and even the 10,000-year spiritual liquid. When Jie Hui approached within 100 meters, his spiritual perception swept over Songwen. Upon discovering Songwen's identity, Jie Hui's eyes also brightened. After all, Songwen possessed a portion of the 10,000-year spiritual liquid. The only trouble was that the evil Buddha path techniques he cultivated would be suppressed by Songwen's Thunder Law. However, he was confident that dealing with a mid-foundation establishment Thunder Law cultivator would not pose a problem. He was still unaware of Songwen killing Wang Ming and Lang Tianlu. In his understanding, Songwen was merely a person with considerable talent in Thunder Law. "Ah, so you are a benefactor of the Beastmaster sect. I remember that your sect's Rong Jingyun mentioned you, and your name is Wu Sheng. Wu Sheng, hand over the 10,000-year spiritual liquid. This humble monk can grant you a quick death, otherwise I will have to exorcise demons and let you experience the taste of a vengeful spirit devouring your soul." Before his words fell, Jie Hui's benevolent expression suddenly turned sinister. Although he repeatedly urged Songwen to hand over the 10,000-year spiritual liquid, his actions showed no intention of sparing Songwen's life. He held a human skin drum in one hand and lightly tapped it with the other. He knew well that ghostly entities could be suppressed by Thunder Law, so he decided not to summon any. In front of Songwen, the world began to spin. The space gradually distorted and transformed, and time seemed to shift. A 1,000-meter-high mountain appeared before him. The mountain had 18 tentacles waving and thrashing about. It was unmistakably the appearance of the Beastmaster sect's guardian divine beast Bloodsway. Songwen stood at the foot of the mountain with the 18 thick tentacles casting a shadow over him, descending menacingly, an illusion. Songwen realized in his heart, although he knew that the scene before him was merely an illusion, it felt too real. He could even clearly perceive the hurricane created by the flailing tentacles whipping against his skin, causing a stinging pain. A fear emanating from the depths of his nature surged within him. This fear, like a cold venomous snake, tightly bound him, trying to imprison him and prevent any resistance. What if it's the guardian divine beast? It's just a man-eating demon. You think I will surrender? Dream on. Great cave divine thunder, extinguish. A bolt of thunder materialized in the sky like the wrath of a celestial deity, tearing apart the silence of the underground dark river. Thunder flashes, breaking all the sinister and evil in the world. The phantom of Bloodsway shattered like struck glass. Weak and fragile, turning into countless tiny fragments that scattered in the air. Songwen's vision instantly returned to normal. He saw a pale white bone spear shoot towards his forehead. A bronze bell suddenly materialized on Songwen's body. The bone spear struck the bronze bell. The bell emitted a brilliant green light. It blocked the bone spear. The tremendous impact caused Songwen to stumble backwards several steps. A flicker of surprise flashed in Jie Hui's eyes. He had ambushed a mid-foundation establishment cultivator and actually failed. Not only did the opponent cultivate Thunder Law, but he was also a formidable body-refining cultivator. I want to see just how strong your Thunder Law is. Whether it can defeat the endless evil. Jie Hui thought fiercely. He opened his mouth and spat. A large amount of black, foul qi gushed out. It surged forward like a torrent of filth, crashing towards Songwen. Jie Hui originally thought Songwen would activate his Thunder Law to forcibly disperse the filthy qi. However, Songwen merely looked at the rushing filth without any signs of movement, as if he didn't care at all. Jie Hui couldn't help but be astonished. Typically, righteous cultivators, when faced with filthy qi, would at least set up a spiritual power shield to resist the corruption. If a righteous cultivator were heavily tainted by foul qi, their spiritual power would be polluted, leading to obstructions in its operation and severely affecting their abilities. Yet, Songwen remained motionless, allowing the foul qi to wash over his flesh without showing any discomfort, except for being slightly disturbed by the foul stench. In Jie Hui's astonished gaze, the righteous aura around Songwen began to retract, and a dense corpse aura surged forth. Songwen's flesh rapidly shriveled and transformed into a corpse-like form. In an instant, he became a zombie with sharp fangs and long claws. Demonic Path Corpse Cultivator. Jie Hui's eyes widened in disbelief. How could anyone simultaneously cultivate both righteous and demonic path techniques? No wonder the other party was unafraid of foul qi. Demonic path cultivators had no fear of it. They used foul qi to cultivate. Jie Hui's shock didn't end there. Two figures radiating terrifying pressure appeared beside Songwen. One on the left and one on the right. On the left was a corpse puppet exuding overwhelming corpse aura. On the right was a ghost king with a vast and oppressive ghostly presence, a pseudo-third stage silver corpse and ghost king. Jie Hui's face was filled with horror and disbelief. He quickly began retreating. Jie. Only now do you think about escaping? Isn't it a bit too late? A bloodthirsty expression filled Songwen's face. Since escaping from the corpse demon sect, it was the first time he revealed his body from the blood refinement technique of the Corpse King. Just moments ago, the sacred goo had already scouted a 10-mile radius. There were no other cultivators nearby. The secret realm was isolated from the outside world and filled with foul qi, helping him conceal his presence. He could unleash his full power. Just as Jie Hui had escaped about 10 meters, he was caught up by the rushing Ghost King. The Ghost King kicked towards Jie Hui's chest. Jie Hui opened his mouth again, spewing out a large amount of foul qi, condensing it into a shield in front of him. However, the foul qi shield, merely a product of concentrated foul qi, was utterly incapable of withstanding the full force strike of a pseudo-third stage Ghost King. The foul qi shield shattered with a single blow. It transformed into a stench-filled miasma that dispersed into the air. Chapter 332. Jie Hui could only watch helplessly as the Ghost King raised its big foot and kicked toward his chest. At that moment, he felt immense regret. Why had he practiced the evil Buddha technique? If he had practiced orthodox Buddhist teachings, it might have had some restraining effect on ghosts. Perhaps he could have held on for a bit longer. Now, he was left powerless and awaiting his doom. Chaotic thoughts flashed through Jie Hui's mind. Bang. The Ghost King's kick landed squarely on Jie Hui's chest. His body was sent flying backward as if struck by a giant beast. At the same time, he spat out a large amount of fresh blood, staining the air crimson. The Ghost King's kick didn't take Jie Hui's life. It only left him severely injured. Unerringly, Jie Hui landed right at Songwen's feet. He tilted his head up and saw Songwen looking down at him from a height, gazing at him intently. It was a face that looked nothing like a living person's. Skin that was shriveled and black. Fangs protruding with a dark, eerie glow. Between his mouth and nose, a swirling aura of corpse energy could be seen. At that moment, Songwen's appearance was terrifying beyond belief. Master, didn't you just say you would give me a quick end? To exorcise the demons? I wonder how you plan to exorcise me, this corpse demon? Kakik. Songwen's gray eyes fixed on Jie Hui, sending chills down his spine. With sharp, bony claws, he aimed to stab down at Jie Hui's head. Wait, benefactor. In the midst of Jie Hui's terrified gaze, the claws stopped just half an inch from his eyes. Oh? Does the master have any last words? Hurry up and say them. Once you're done, this demon will send you to the Western Paradise to meet the Buddha. Songwen's voice was like the wailing of hell's demons, sharp and piercing, making one tremble in fear. Jiehui hurriedly replied, "Everyone is equal. There are no demons in this world, just people who are foolish and blinded by appearances. The Buddha has 1,000 forms. Benefactor, you are definitely not a demon, but a manifestation of the Buddha exorcising demons in this world." Upon hearing this, Songwen couldn't help but be stunned. He thought that Jiehui had some vital information worth a life. He never expected that even on the brink of death, Jiehui would still be trying to outsmart him. It was utterly absurd. Wasting precious time, in an instant, the claws pierced through Jiehui's skull. Jiehui breathed his last. Songwen activated the soul-searching technique to delve into Jiehui's memories. Both Songwen and Jiehui were at the peak level of the Foundation establishment stage. However, Songwen's spiritual consciousness was slightly stronger. Upon executing the soul-searching technique, he found very few memories, only scattered fragments from the moments leading up to Jiehui's death. From Jiehui's memories, Songwen learned that when they were in the cave where the 10,000-year spiritual liquid palace was located, Jiehui and his companions had chased after Rong Jingyun along the cliff edges of the cave, descending hundreds of miles. Upon reaching the depths of the cliff, a chilling aura began to creep in. At the end of the cliff, a bottomless cold pool appeared before them. A bone-chilling cold emanated from the pool, fatigued from fleeing. Rong Jingyun didn't hesitate and plunged into the cold water. The water in the deep pool was icy to the bone. That frigid aura penetrated to the marrow, seemingly capable of freezing a person's very soul. Upon entering the pool, Rong Jingyun felt her limbs stiffen. However, with a deadly demon monk behind her, she had no way to retreat and could only continue diving deeper. The deeper she went, the stronger the cold became, even with spiritual power protecting her. Many places on Rong Jingyun's body began to crystallize with tiny ice shards, causing her flesh to freeze and die. As she continued to dive deeper, the pool water swept past her, taking with it pieces of rotting flesh, revealing the frozen blood and flesh beneath. Seeing that Rong Jingyun was about to succumb to the extreme cold of the cold pool, she grabbed the fire cauldron behind her with one hand. A wisp of faint blue flame overflowed from the cauldron, flowing along her arm and into her flesh. The dual torment of ice and fire plunged Rong Jingyun into immense pain. Yet, under the adjustment of her inner spiritual power, the ice and fire reached a delicate balance. With the help of the earth core refining flame, Rong Jingyun barely resisted the encroaching cold. She continued to dive toward the depths of the cold pool. Fortunately, the cold pool wasn't very deep, only about 10 meters. At the bottom of the cold pool was a horizontal passage. After moving forward a few meters along the passage, it began to slope upward. Rong Jingyun, who was already dazed from the freezing, felt a surge of energy and quickly ascended. Meanwhile, for Jiehui and the other two, when they reached the upper part of the cold pool, their expressions inexplicably changed to one of excitement. The yin-yang blood-weeping branch thrives in dark, sunless and damp places. This location perfectly met both of those conditions, thus it was highly likely that the yin-yang blood-weeping branch could grow here. The three of them quickly spread out to search around the cold pool. The entire bottom of the cliff wasn't large, only occupying a small area, with the cold pool taking up half of it. In just a breath or two, the three of them had searched the vicinity of the cold pool. They found no trace of the yin-yang blood-weeping branch. After a brief discussion, they decided to dive into the cold pool to search for any other exits. Perhaps at the other exits of the deep pool, they might find traces of the yin-yang blood-weeping branch. Since Rong Jingyun was ahead, scouting for them, even if there were dangers, she would bear the brunt, giving them ample time to react. If there were no other exits in the cold pool, they could also kill Rong Jingyun and seize the 10,000-year spiritual liquid in her hands. Jiasei's robe was a top-tier defensive spiritual artifact, and it helped to release Buddha light, shielding them from the cold temperatures of the pool. The three followed Rong Jingyun and descended to the bottom of the deep pool's horizontal passage. After diving down, the underwater passage began to slope upward. Ahead, Rong Jingyun saw a glimmer of hope for escape and felt invigorated. The three monks behind her were similarly stirred. The mouth of the pool above them likely had the yin-yang blood-weeping branch. Whoa. Rong Jingyun was the first to break through the water's surface. With a wave of her hand, a fireball the size of a basin suddenly shot up into the air. After ascending several hundred meters, the fireball collided with the rocky ceiling of the cave. The fireball exploded, turning into countless sparks of light that scattered everywhere. With the aid of the firelight, Rong Jingyun finally saw her surroundings clearly. This was an underground cavern about several dozen meters in size. Within the cave, bizarre rock formations jutted out. There were large stone stalactites hanging from the ceiling. There were stone drapes, stone pillars, and stalagmites standing on the ground. Each formation was unique and oddly shaped. A subterranean river wound its way through the cavern. Rong Jingyun looked around but found no exit in this cavern. However, at the end of the river was a submerged passage leading out of the cave. Rong Jingyun swiftly made her way toward the dark passage flowing out of the river. Splash, splash, splash. Jia Hui and the other two emerged from the deep pool. At that moment, darkness once again enveloped the cavern, yet they were able to accurately locate Rong Jingyun's position. Relying on their strong eyesight and the fluctuations of spiritual power emanating from her, Jia Wu immediately transformed into a golden giant and pursued Rong Jingyun. Jia Se urged the demon exorcising staff and charged at Rong Jingyun. Jia Hui raised his hand and shot out 2 fireballs, illuminating the entire cavern. Once more, the three acted independently yet in perfect coordination as if they had planned it in advance. Chapter 333. Rong Jingyun knew in her heart that once she was entangled by the three of them, there would be little chance of escape. This underground cavern would become her burial place. Time was pressing, and Rong Jingyun had no time to dodge the attacks from the demon exorcising staff. She kept the fire cauldron behind her, not dodging or avoiding, and continued to rush toward the river's exit. Clang! The demon exorcising staff struck the fire cauldron. The tremendous impact sent the fire cauldron flying forward, colliding perfectly with Rong Jingyun's back. PFF. Rong Jingyun spat out a mouthful of blood. Stumbling, she accelerated and charged ahead. Just as she was about to plunge into the river, a sharp, piercing sound suddenly came from behind her. It was a thick stalagmite, over 2 meters long. It was Jia Wu. Seeing that he couldn't catch up to Rong Jingyun, he casually ripped off a stalagmite and threw it with all his might at her. Rong Jingyun used all her strength to unleash a wave of spiritual energy, hitting the stalagmite. The stalagmite immediately exploded into countless fragments. Before Rong Jingyun could breathe a sigh of relief, another series of piercing sounds rang out as several thick stalagmites came hurtling toward her. With their immense force, Rong Jingyun dared not underestimate them and could only focus on shattering them one by one. Next, the demon exorcising staff regrouped and attacked again. Under the relentless assault from Jia Wu and Jia Se, Rong Jingyun was exhausted from defending herself and slowed down, allowing Jia Se to catch up to her. After blocking the demon exorcising staff once again, Rong Jingyun couldn't dodge in time and was struck in the chest by a large stalagmite. The sharp stalagmite crashed against her chest. It shattered instantly. Rong Jingyun was violently knocked back. Bang, bang, bang. A series of crashing sounds erupted. Rong Jingyun broke several hanging stalactites before finally stopping, crashing down beside the river. The continuous violent impacts injured her internal organs severely. Cough, cough, cough. Rong Jingyun collapsed to the ground, coughing up several mouthfuls of blood, with fragments of her internal organs mixed in. Jia Se flashed over and hovered above Rong Jingyun. His gaze slowly swept across her body, filled with lewd desire. Though your appearance may have aged a bit, your charm still remains, with a unique allure. Jia Se commented on Rong Jingyun like a hungry ghost obsessed with lust. He seemed utterly impatient. Meanwhile, Jia Hui, who was using the light from his fireball technique to observe the cavern, suddenly brightened his eyes. Next to the river, among a tangle of stalagmites, a spiritual plant was growing. The plant was about a foot tall with 24 small leaves. Half of them were white and half were jet black. It was the yin-yang blood weeping branch, an essential herb for refining the golden core pill. Every 20 years, the yin-yang blood weeping branch grows a new leaf. This meant that the yin-yang blood weeping branch before them was nearly 100 years old. Such an aged yin-yang blood weeping branch was rare. Even in the Kanglan secret realm, a yin-yang blood weeping branch over 100 years old could already be used for refining the golden core pill. The yin-yang blood weeping branch grew among the stalagmites, and because it was beyond the perception range of Jia Hui and the others, They had not discovered its presence when they first entered the cavern. With a look of ecstatic joy, Jia Hui's expression shifted to one of caution. Wherever the yin-yang blood-weeping branch grew, powerful beasts often resided, however. Despite their fierce battle in the cavern, they had yet to see any sign of beasts. Could it be that this yin-yang blood-weeping branch was unguarded by any beasts? Jia Hui speculated in his heart. Jia Wu, Jia Se, be careful and stay alert. There's a yin-yang blood-weeping branch here. Jia Hui loudly reminded her companions. Upon hearing this, Jia Wu's expression lit up with joy. What? You really found the yin-yang blood-weeping branch? Jia Wu exclaimed. Rushing toward Jia Hui, Jia Se also showed a happy expression. He looked at Rong Jingyun, and his lewd gaze gradually retracted. I was planning to let you live a bit longer, allowing you to experience the subtlety of the joyful Buddhist sutra before you die. But since there's a yin-yang blood-weeping branch here, there may be beasts lurking around. It seems you won't have the chance to comprehend the joyful Buddhist sutra after all. What a pity. Jia Se wore an expression full of regret. He circulated his spiritual energy and activated the demon exorcising staff. The demon exorcising staff shone with golden light, piercing through the air with a harsh, shrill sound as it stabbed down toward the heavily injured Rong Jingyun on the brink of life and death. Rong Jingyun, despite her severe injuries, forcibly activated the fire cauldron to protect herself. However, contrary to expectations, the scene of the demon exorcising staff striking the fire cauldron did not occur. As the demon exorcising staff approached Rong Jingyun, a few meters away, suddenly an ice column shot up from the river beside her. The ice column was about a meter thick and over 10 meters long. Emitting a ghostly blue cold light, this made the ice column appear less like it was formed from ice crystals and more like it was made of metal. The demon exorcising staff struck the ice column. Several cracks quickly spread within the ice column with a loud bang. The ice column shattered into several pieces and fell down. The demon exorcising staff was also blocked. The sudden turn of events made Jia Se's eyes narrow and he stared at the river with a wary expression. Rong Jingyun, who had just escaped death, was equally astonished as she looked at the river beside her. Just moments ago, the place where the ice column had erupted from was less than a yard away from her. At such a close distance, she hadn't sensed any life in the river. Suddenly, a tentacle shot out from underwater, curling toward Rong Jingyun by the riverbank. The tentacle was about the thickness of a human waist. What was peculiar was that the tentacle was almost transparent. If it remained still underwater and emitted no fluctuations of spiritual energy, it would be very difficult to detect its presence. Rong Jingyun, knowing her current condition, understood that she could not evade the attack of the tentacle. She activated the fire cauldron and turned it upside down. The fire cauldron enveloped her. The tentacle wrapped around both her and the cauldron, dragging them both into the water. In the distance, Jia Hui and Jia Wu were stunned at this scene. Their attention had been solely on the yin-yang blood-weeping branch. They had already anticipated the presence of beasts in the cavern. However, the location where the beasts were hiding should have been near the yin-yang blood-weeping branch, not beside Rong Jingyun, who was several miles away. But soon, the two realized the stalagmite group where the yin-yang blood-weeping branch grew was only a few meters away from the riverbank. It was practically adjacent to the river. It wouldn't be surprising for a beast to hide within the waters. The beast was likely attracted by the earlier battle and had stealthily concealed itself nearby. With Rong Jingyun gravely injured and lying by the river, Jia Se was preparing to land a fatal blow on her, which would lead the less intelligent water beast to mistakenly believe it was being attacked. So the beast summoned an ice column to block the demon exorcising staff. Upon realizing this, Jia Hui's eyes lit up. If the beast had gone downstream, didn't that mean that the yin-yang blood-weeping branch was currently unguarded? Suddenly, an ominous aura surged around him and he transformed into a blur, swiftly racing toward the yin-yang blood-weeping branch. When he was less than 100 meters away from it, Jia Hui could already sense the yin-yang blood-weeping branch. He extended his right hand and a foul aura shot from his palm. The foul energy coiled around the base of the yin-yang blood-weeping branch like a chain. Jia Hui intended to use the foul energy chain to pull the yin-yang blood-weeping branch up from a distance. Chapter 334. Splash! A deafening sound of water breaking echoed. Suddenly, a tentacle shot up from the water, sweeping towards Jie Hui and simultaneously crushing the foul energy chain. This tentacle was only as thick as a bucket, but when it emerged from the river, it extended several meters long. Jie Hui's expression tightened. At this moment, he realized that the water beast wasn't drawn downstream but had an extremely elongated body, whether it was the Yin-Yang blood-weeping branch or the heavily injured Rong Jingyun several miles downstream. They were all within its attack range. The length of this beast's body was almost unbelievable. Jie Hui retreated rapidly. A large amount of foul energy overflowed from his mouth. At this moment, he formed a Buddha seal with his hands in front of his chest. With the activation of the Buddha seal, the foul energy began to condense in the air. In the blink of an eye, a Tenjong tall, dark and sinister Buddha materialized. The Buddha held one hand with the Buddha seal and struck toward the elongated tentacle with the other. Boom. The two forces collided. The tentacle trembled slightly and was pushed back. The Buddha's palm dissipated and the foul energy dispersed into the air. Jie Wu, Jiase, help me kill this demon. Jie Hui shouted loudly. Jie Wu, a giant man over a zhang tall, gathered strength in his legs and leaped toward the tentacle. He swung his fist down with all his might toward the tentacle. The golden fist smashed firmly against the tentacle. A burst of blood mist erupted. The tentacle was cut off with a single blow. A segment of the tentacle, over a meter long, fell down. However, since the tentacle had already emerged from the water, it was several meters long. Losing just over a meter was not a significant injury to it. The severed portion of the tentacle, however, took the opportunity to wrap around Jie Wu. The tentacle coiled tightly, fully encircling Jie Wu. At that moment, the tentacle squeezed with all its strength, trying to crush Jie Wu into minced meat. Jie Wu's face contorted in rage, his muscles bulging as veins like long worms writhed beneath his skin. Open. Jie Wu summoned all his strength but found that he couldn't break free from the tentacle. The tentacle rapidly retracted, dragging Jie Wu into the river. Jiase, who was rushing downstream, saw this scene. He suddenly activated the demon exorcising staff, aiming it at a relatively calm section of the water's surface. The demon exorcising staff shone with golden light, piercing into the water and causing a huge splash. Eek! A strange howling cry emerged from beneath the water. Splash! A semi-transparent monster surfaced from the depths. The monster resembled a jellyfish, appearing semi-transparent, allowing a clear view of its internal organs. Its body was only a few zhang in size, but it had 8 tentacles, each as thick as a bucket, all extending 3 to 4 zhang long, giving it a very elongated and bizarre appearance. 2 of its tentacles coiled around Jie Wu and Rong Jingyun. The monster had a hole the size of a grinding disc on its head, from which a viscous liquid flowed continuously. It was clear that it had been injured by the demon exorcising staff. With its head wounded and in immense pain, the monster became extraordinarily furious. Its tentacles flailed wildly in the air, throwing Jie Wu and Rong Jingyun away. Jie Wu was launched like a cannonball, crashing to the ground, tumbling and smashing through countless stalagmites before finally coming to a stop. The violent impact severely injured Jie Wu. Over half of his bones were shattered, and his hands and feet twisted and deformed, oddly folding together. His Arhut golden body had been broken, returning him to his true form, his aura drifting as he lay on the ground. Rong Jingyun's situation was about to improve significantly. She was knocked into the river, but with the flame fire cauldron protecting her, she did not suffer significant damage from this strike. However, she was still heavily injured when the flame fire cauldron crashed into the water. The tremendous impact aggravated her internal injuries, causing her intense pain as if her organs were shifting. After catching her breath for a moment, Rong Jingyun gritted her teeth against the excruciating pain and flipped out of the flame fire cauldron, slipping into the river and making her way downstream. Not far downstream, there was a dark passage where the river flowed out of a cave. As long as she could enter the passage, she would have a chance to escape from this predicament. At that moment, the monster's attention was focused entirely on Jiase, providing the best opportunity for Rong Jingyun to escape. After throwing Rong Jingyun and Jie Wu away, the monster's 8 tentacles all converged towards Jiase. Jiase's expression turned terrified, and he retreated rapidly. Under his command, the demon exorcising staff lunged at the tentacle. The monster sacrificed one of its tentacles to withdraw the demon exorcising staff toward the other end of the cave, far beyond Jiase's range of spiritual control, making it impossible for him to retrieve it for the time being. Several tentacles from different angles wrapped around Jie. Jie tried to control his body to dodge left and right in the air, but ultimately he could not escape the encirclement of the 8 tentacles. The 8 tentacles drew closer, gradually compressing Jie's space to move in the end. With nowhere to flee, Jie was trapped in the center, tightly surrounded by the tentacles. If it weren't for the golden Buddha light emanating from his kasaya and lacking a powerful physique like Jiawu's, he would have been crushed into a pile of flesh long ago. Jie, help me. Jie cried out desperately. At that moment, Jie flew over to Jiawu's side and fed him 2 pills. Upon hearing Jie's plea for help, Jie looked up. He saw the 8 tentacles chaotically entangled together, forming a massive ball of flesh. The tentacles tightened around their prey like a giant python, continually constricting. Jie took out a human skin drum and lightly tapped it. A muffled drumbeat echoed. The monster's tentacles, which had been tightening, suddenly showed a tendency to stop contracting. However, in less than a breath's time, the monster broke free from the drum's illusion and resumed tightening its tentacles, showing no signs of stopping until Jie was dead. Seeing this, a flicker of hesitation crossed Jie's eyes. From the records left by past cultivators who entered the secret realm, there was documentation about this monster. The creature was called the Stinging Mother Beast, a powerful demon that lived in the water. The Stinging Mother Beast before him was at the peak of the 2nd tier, equivalent to a peak foundation establishment cultivator. However, within the Kanglin's secret realm, the cultivator's spiritual consciousness was suppressed, severely limiting the attack range they could control. In battle, they would inevitably feel restricted. When facing a monster like the Stinging Mother Beast, which had long-range attack capabilities, it was even more difficult. Jie, hurry and come save me, I can't hold on much longer. Jie urged from within the encircled ball of flesh. Hearing this, Jie, who had been hesitating, made his decision. He dragged Jie and leaped back into the cold pool, not looking back. Only the sounds of Jie's cries for help and curses echoed in the cave. Jie, what are you doing? Come save me. Not realizing Jie had already left, Jie continued to urge him. Jie, you greedy coward, do you really want to abandon me? Gradually, a hint of despair crept into Jie's voice. Jie, I beg you, come save me, I don't want to die here. After a long time without receiving a response, Jie began to plead pitifully. Jie, you ungrateful wretch, have you forgotten that I saved your life from the hands of the corpse demon sect? Amidst Jie's curses, the tentacles continued to constrict. The kasaya could gradually no longer withstand the immense force of the tightening tentacles, and the golden light it emitted slowly dimmed. In an instant, the kasaya's golden light suddenly vanished and the tentacles abruptly closed in. Jie was instantly crushed into a pulp. The transparent tentacles turned red with his blood. Chapter 3:35. Jie dragged the severely injured Jie through the cold pool, returning to the cave of the 10,000-year spiritual liquid hall. The 10,000-year spiritual liquid hall was already deserted. Jie, already injured, was forcibly pulled through the cold pool by Jie. The cold seeped into his body, exacerbating his injuries, leaving him lying on the ground, unable to move. Fortunately, the healing pills Jie had previously fed him were high quality, barely preserving his life. At that moment, the spiritual power within him was slowly refining the pills, repairing his injuries. Jie struggled to spit out a few words. Usually, he argued incessantly with Jie. However, when he was trapped by the Stinging Mother Beast, it was Jie who risked his life to save him. In the end, this led to Jie falling into the hands of the Stinging Mother Beast. Jie had risked his life to save him. Yet, when Jie found himself in peril, he felt powerless, leaving Jie with deep guilt. Jie shook his head. At that time, I was also powerless. Jie lay on his back, staring at the pitch-black sky with a desolate expression. Jie, in your current state, it's difficult to recover in a short time, at least until the end of the secret realm. You won't be able to return to your former self. Why not offer your soul and body to my skeletal ghost generals? They can also restore some strength. Jie's voice was like the wind and snow of winter, chilling Jie's heart. After decades of friendship, Jie wanted to use him as food for the ghostly beings. Helpless, Jie Wu could only move his eyes to look at Jie Hui. What he saw, however, were 5 ethereal skeletons. During the struggle for the 10,000-year spiritual liquid, the 5 skeletal ghost generals were injured by Ji Rushua's sword formation and had not fully recovered. Jie Hui, spare me. He couldn't finish his sentence before the 5 skeletal ghosts lunged at him. They began to gnaw at his physical body, watching Jie Wu being devoured. Jie Hui wore a compassionate expression and chanted the Buddhist rebirth spell. However, Jie Wu's soul was quickly consumed. There was absolutely no chance for rebirth. After the 5 ghosts finished their meal, Jie Hui turned and left the cave where the 10,000-year spiritual liquid hall was located, following the passage used by Song Wan and the others to leave. He ventured deeper into the underground dark river. The path he took was different from the one that Song Wan had followed when trailing Feng Qi. Their entrances into the underground dark river were also different. After organizing the memories obtained from the soul search, Song Wan couldn't help but feel delighted he had discovered a clue about the yin-yang blood-weeping branch. And it was a 500-year-old one, however. The stinging mother beast posed a challenge. Perhaps it was due to the protection of the stinging mother beast that this yin-yang blood-weeping branch could have such a high age. Those cultivators who coveted the yin-yang blood-weeping branch had all died at the hands of the stinging mother beast. But how do we enter the cave? Do we have to return to the 10,000-year spiritual liquid hall and enter through the cold pool below the cliff? Song Wan pondered in Jie Hui's memories. There was only this route to enter the cave where the yin-yang blood-weeping branch was located. There was also a dark passage leading into the cave through an underground river, however. Song Wan did not know where this dark river was. First, I need to find Feng Qi, kill him, and then obtain the yin-yang blood-weeping branch. After thinking for a moment, Song Wan made his decision in his heart. The yin-yang blood-weeping branch was protected by the stinging mother beast, and even 3 Peak Foundation establishment cultivators, including Jie Hui, had not been able to defeat it. There was no need to worry about someone else taking it. The time required to travel back to the 10,000-year spiritual liquid hall was too long, and Song Wan didn't want to waste too much time on the journey. After carefully searching around, Song Wan discovered the markings left by the sacred Gu Feng Qi was moving along the riverway. Thinking of the yin-yang blood-weeping branch, Song Wan's speed noticeably increased. Song Wan followed the river, swimming upstream for several hundred miles. Yet he still had not seen Feng Qi's trace. During this time, he also discovered several hidden passages leading to other riverways. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart that the underground dark rivers in the Kanglin's secret realm were indeed crisscrossing and endless. And this underground waterway was perhaps a bit too developed. Suddenly, a violent fluctuation of spiritual energy came from ahead. Someone was fighting. Song Wan first allowed the sacred Gu to approach while he concealed his aura and slowly followed. After moving forward about 10 miles, Song Wan could clearly see the 2 combatants. It was actually Ji Rushue and Feng Qi. Ji Rushue activated the evil extermination sword formation, trapping Feng Qi within it. Within the sword formation, bolts of lightning and sword energy fell intermittently, bombarding Feng Qi. It was thanks to the flashes of lightning that illuminated the pitch-black underground world that Song Wan was able to recognize the 2 from several miles away. The battle between the 2 was quite intense. The evil extermination sword formation could summon thunderous techniques, making it quite powerful. However, Ji Rushue's cultivation was weaker than Feng Qi's. Moreover, Feng Qi was not an ordinary opponent with his fire techniques. Even though he was trapped in the sword formation and simultaneously attacked by lightning and sword light, he seemed to handle it with ease. On the contrary, Ji Rushue, who was controlling the sword formation, appeared somewhat unsettled. Maintaining the sword formation consumed a considerable amount of her spiritual power. Not being able to take down Feng Qi for an extended period made her feel a bit discouraged. Last time in the Donghua Square, your master and the Hehuan Sex Senior let you escape with your life. This time, let's see where you can run. Inside the sword formation, Feng Qi, while mobilizing his fire techniques to fend off the incoming sword energy, shouted loudly. He said this to disturb Ji Rushue's mindset, although he was temporarily safe. Being trapped in the sword formation for too long was not a good thing. Ji Rushue bit her silver teeth and quickly manipulated the sword art in her hands. The formation's power suddenly increased, thunderbolts fell frequently, and sword light continued to slash out inside the sword formation. Feng Qi felt the pressure surge, but instead of getting angry, he felt joy. The sword formation was driven by Ji Rushue's spiritual power. Such a high-intensity attack could not be sustained for long with her late-stage foundation establishment cultivation. Feng Qi held a blazing fire bell above him, helping him resist the attacks that slipped through. He continuously summoned various fire dragons and fire phoenixes to counter the incoming thunder and sword light. Suddenly, 3 bolts of lightning and 9 rays of sword light fell simultaneously. The fire techniques Feng Qi unleashed only managed to block 10 of the attacks. 1 bolt of lightning and 1 ray of sword light struck the blazing fire bell above him. The flames on the bell suddenly flickered, going from bright to dim. Then, the bell exploded, sending firelight splattering everywhere. The residual power of lightning and sword light fell on the spiritual power shield, which was Feng Qi's final defense. The spiritual power shield shattered with a sound. The sword light slashed across Feng Qi's chest, and the lightning struck the top of his head. After the blazing fire bell and the spiritual power shield absorbed some of the power, the remaining might of the thunder and sword light was not much. Feng Qi suffered a wound about a foot long across his chest from the sword light. The lightning knocked Feng Qi flying, leaving him charred all over. Though Feng Qi appeared disheveled, the actual damage was not severe. He slightly circulated his spiritual power, expelling most of the sword energy and lightning that had invaded his body. As for his external injuries, they were merely superficial wounds, not serious, and would not affect his combat effectiveness. Chapter 336. Feng Qi was injured by the sword formation, but Ji Rushue did not pursue the advantage. The move she had just used to hurt Feng Qi was already her trump card. Yet she hadn't achieved the ideal battle outcome. Instead, it had resulted in a significant drain on her spiritual power. Ji Rushue recalled the 9 flying swords of the evil extermination sword formation and swiftly retreated as she escaped. She was moving downstream along the river. Coincidentally, this direction was where Songwen was located. The riverbank was not wide, and there was no suitable place to hide. Songwen noticed that Ji Rushue was fleeing toward him, and even if he wanted to hide, there was nowhere to go. Moreover, Songwen had no intention of hiding at all. As Ji Rushue flew on her sword, she suddenly discovered that someone was blocking her path ahead and couldn't help but feel startled. Focusing her gaze, she could vaguely see that the person was dressed in the attire of the Beastmaster sect. Ji Rushue subconsciously took Songwen to be Feng Qi's accomplice. She urged her flying sword toward Songwen to strike. The sword strike was not meant to kill. She simply wanted to force Songwen back so she could escape smoothly. Songwen activated the turtle snake shield to block Ji Rushue's hasty sword strike. At that moment, as Ji Rushue did not slow down, she finally saw Songwen's appearance clearly. She realized she had attacked the wrong person. In the 10,000-year spiritual liquid hall, Ji Rushue had seen quite clearly that Feng Qi's subordinate had snatched Songwen's stone meditation cushion. Songwen was not Feng Qi's accomplice, but rather an enemy. An enemy of an enemy is a friend. Fellow Taoist, I was reckless just now. I apologize for the offense. Ji Rushue spoke words of apology, but her fleeing light showed no signs of slowing down. She thought to herself, Songwen held a grudge against Feng Qi. In this encounter, there was likely to be a battle between the two. She was just in time to divert the water and wait for an opportunity to slip away. Just as Ji Rushue was about to sweep past Songwen overhead, a majestic celestial might suddenly surged before Songwen. 3 lightning spears, each a zhang long, materialized. The lightning spears shot out like shooting stars, aimed directly at Ji Rushue. Ji Rushue's expression changed, and she raised her hand to send out a white flying sword to slash at the lightning spears. Fellow Taoist, what do you mean by this? Confused by Songwen's attack, Ji Rushue was forced to slow her escape to fend off the lightning spears, urgently asking, You attacked me for no reason, and after a mere, I apologize for the offense, you think you can escape? Songwen's expression was grim, bearing a look of vengeance. Ji Rushue, looking anxious, explained, You and I both have grievances with Feng Qi. We should join forces to fight against him instead of harming each other, allowing Feng Qi to benefit from it. Songwen remained unmoved, summoning 3 more lightning spears to strike at Ji Rushue. He cast a glance toward Feng Qi, who was chasing Ji Rushue ever closer, and a bloody smile crept across his lips. Feng Qi, neither of you will escape. Feng Qi had caught up to a short distance behind Songwen. Seeing that Songwen had intercepted Ji Ruxue, he couldn't help but smile. Wu Xing, I truly have to thank you. Not only did you walk into the trap, but you also helped me block this vile woman. Ji Ruxue's expression darkened as she shouted at Songwen, get out of the way. As she spoke, Ji Ruxue summoned 9 flying swords, which surged out one after another to slash at Songwen. Songwen's expression remained cold. I told you, neither of you will escape. With a thought, Songwen summoned the profound Earth Treasure Pagoda, shielding it above his head to block the onslaught of the 9 flying swords. At the same time, 3 corpses and 2 ghosts appeared beside Songwen. The armored Ghost King was the fastest. As soon as it appeared, it dashed toward the slightly distant Feng Qi. The silver corpse, on the other hand, charged at Ji Ruxue in the Blood Cloud Cave. He had captured a total of 3 peak second-stage copper corpses, one of which he refined into a fake third-stage silver corpse. There was also a ghost general he hadn't used for a long time. It held the top-grade ghost banner and quickly swept towards Feng Qi from behind, preventing his escape. As for the sacred goo, Songwen had scattered it all around to scout the perimeter, preventing any other cultivators from approaching Songwen employed all his means, leaving no chance for the two to escape. Feng Qi looked at the Ghost King charging at him with a sword, and his expression changed drastically. This Wu Shang had hidden his capabilities too deeply. The corpse refining techniques displayed within his sect were merely the tip of the iceberg. Wu Shang had not only refined a fake third-stage silver corpse, but had also raised a fake third-stage Ghost King. Feng Qi hurriedly formed a hand seal to summon a fire phoenix over 10 zhang tall. The fire phoenix flapped its wings, transforming into a brilliant red trajectory that rushed toward the Ghost King. Chirp! The fire phoenix let out a sharp cry. With its mouth wide open, endless flames erupted forth. The blazing flames spread across the sky, sweeping toward the Ghost King. The pitch-black underground realm was illuminated brightly by the flames, and the temperature in the vicinity began to rise sharply. The fire phoenix summoned by Feng Qi was condensed from fire element techniques, carrying a strand of natural yang energy that exerted a certain suppressive effect on evil entities. As the flames swirled around, the Ghost King had nowhere to dodge and saw no need to. The black ghostly energy rising from its body resembled burning black flames, seemingly capable of swallowing light itself. The Ghost King held a broad ghost sword and charged directly into the flames, with endless ghostly energy protecting its body. The flames seemed to shy away in fear. The chilling ghostly energy surged forth, causing the flames to extinguish at a visible speed. Roar! The fire phoenix opened its mouth and lunged at the Ghost King. The Ghost King raised its hand, swinging the giant sword in its grip. The ghostly energy surrounding the giant sword was ominous. In the midst of the blazing flames, the black sword light stood out vividly, flashing by in an instant. The over 10 zhang long fire phoenix was cut in half by a single sword strike, while the intense flames had a certain suppressive effect on the Ghost King. The disparity in strength between the two could not be mitigated by mere suppression. Only a spirit flame infused with rich yang energy from heaven and earth could ignore the difference in strength and injure the Ghost King. After summoning the fire phoenix, Feng Qi had a pair of fiery wings coalesce on his back, turning into a fiery red afterimage as he swiftly retreated. However, he was blocked by the already arrived Ghost General and 2 copper corpses. The Ghost General waved the top-grade ghost banner, stirring up a torrent of ghostly energy, sweeping toward Feng Qi. As the ghostly energy surged past, the flames on the pair of wings on Feng Qi's back were significantly extinguished, and his escape speed drastically reduced. The 2 copper corpses leapt toward Feng Qi simultaneously. Feng Qi's complexion turned ashen. Realizing that powerful ghostly entities surrounded him, it felt as if he were trapped in a dire situation, unable to escape. Clenching his teeth, Feng Qi's expression turned fierce. He flipped his right hand, and an ancient ding cauldron about the size of a palm appeared in his hand. On the ding, a yellow talisman was affixed, seemingly sealing something. He extended his left hand in a sword gesture, lightly tapping the ancient ding. The ding expanded to the size of a water tank. The yellow talisman floated down, and the ancient ding opened to reveal a fist-sized golden flame. The flame flickered slightly. A terrifying heat radiated from the golden flame. Along with it came a surge of pure yang energy. This flame, known as the Jade Light Flame, was a spirit flame imbued with vast righteousness and extreme yang energy. It was something he had gone to great lengths to acquire from the Star Sea. Originally, he intended to refine this fire after Feng Qi's core formation, integrating it into the golden core to enhance the power of his fire element techniques. Now, facing life and death, Feng Qi could only place his hopes of escape on the Jade Light Flame. Chapter 337. Feng Qi mobilized all the spiritual power in his body, and the power surged forth like a flood, rushing towards the ancient ding boom. The spiritual energy surged forth like sparks meeting a torrent of oil. A small jade light flame suddenly soared, transforming into a raging inferno that shot up into the sky. The platinum firelight blazed brightly, illuminating the surroundings in a dazzling platinum hue. The terrifying heat, accompanied by vast pure yang energy, swept out in all directions. In the face of the firelight's brilliance, all darkness and evil seemed to have nowhere to hide, ultimately destined to be extinguished by the pure yang righteousness. The red-haired ghost general waved the top-grade ghost banner, releasing a torrent of ghostly energy that was immediately dispelled. The two copper corpses that were charging towards Feng Qi quickly halted and retreated, distancing themselves from him. Even the Ghost King did not continue its assault on Feng Qi. Instead, it swung its ghost sword, slicing out several beams of condensed ghostly energy aimed at Feng Qi. Both the ghosts and the copper corpses sensed an overwhelming threat from the Jade Light Flame. Feng Qi urged the ancient ding to meet the Ghost King's black sword beams. The black sword beams collided with the platinum firelight and, surprisingly, dissipated at a visible speed. For a moment, the two ghosts and two corpses found themselves unable to do anything against Feng Qi. However, Feng Qi was not at ease either. He had not truly refined the Jade Light Flame. He was merely relying on the ancient ding to barely control it for defense against his enemies. While the Jade Light Flame could harm his foes, it could also injure him. Being closest to the Jade Light Flame, the intense heat radiating from it felt like it was burning him alive. This was precisely why the Ghost King and the copper corpses chose to avoid the flames for now. They understood that Feng Qi could not maintain the Jade Light Flame for long. Meanwhile, Songwon, who was assisting the Silver Corpse in besieging Ji Ruxue, also took note of the commotion here. He ordered the two ghosts and two corpses to trap Feng Qi, ensuring he could not escape. Feng Qi was like a turtle in a jar. He couldn't sustain the Jade Light Flame for long, therefore they only needed to wear down his spiritual power without rushing to engage. To prevent the ghosts and corpses from sustaining injuries, Songwen and the Silver Corpse were about to gain the upper hand in surrounding Ji Ruxue. Ji Ruxue saw the Silver Corpse charging at her and was filled with terror. In a near instinctive reaction, she activated 9 flying swords and executed her strongest move, Evil Extermination Sword Formation, intending to trap the Silver Corpse. Great Cave Divine Thunder, manifest! Ji Ruxue shouted loudly. Lightning flickered on the 9 long swords as they surrounded the Silver Corpse. Songwon, standing nearby, could not just watch Ji Ruxue set up the sword formation. Great Cave Divine Thunder? Perfect, I can do that too. As soon as his voice fell, a thick bolt of thunder suddenly coalesced above him. In an instant, it shot down toward Ji Ruxue. Seeing the descending thunder, feeling its violent and unmatched pressure, Ji Ruxue was incredulous. Songwon had also cultivated the Great Cave Divine Thunder, and more importantly, his was far more powerful than hers. Ji Ruxue hurriedly employed her movement technique to retreat, no longer caring about setting up the formation. She redirected the 9 flying swords into 2 waves. 4 of them slashed at the thunder, the other 5 aimed at the Silver Corpse. In the end, Ji Ruxue, a late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator, overestimated her strength. The 4 flying swords failed to destroy the thunder. The 5 flying swords also did not stop the Silver Corpse. The greatly weakened thunder struck Ji Ruxue. She immediately stiffened, her body trembling uncontrollably. While the thunder's damage was not fatal, it left her body rigid, rendering her escape technique ineffective. Taking advantage of the moment, the Silver Corpse lunged at her. Its sharp claws flashed past Ji Ruxue's slender neck. In the midst of Ji Ruxue's terrified expression, her head suddenly slipped off from her neck, and blood gushed forth till. Chef's kiss. I love how the author doesn't needlessly drag fights. Songwon leaped up, using a secret technique of the corpse path to seal her soul and body. After dealing with Ji Rushue, he turned his gaze towards Feng Qi. Feng Qi was still surrounded by the two ghosts and two corpses. He had attempted several times to break through the encirclement using the jade light flame, but was blocked by the two ghosts and two corpses each time. Under the illumination of the platinum glow of the jade light flame, Feng Qi's face turned as pale as paper. When Ji Rushue had trapped him in the sword formation, he had already consumed a significant amount of his spiritual power. Just a moment ago, he had forcibly activated the jade light flame multiple times. Additionally, he had to expend spiritual power to resist the high temperature of the jade light flame. As a result, his spiritual power was rapidly depleting, and he had very little left. Elder Wu, how about we call it a truce? Whatever treasures you want, I can give you. We have no deep-seated grudges. Why force each other? Feng Qi said loudly. Feng Qi, Wang Ming and I have a deadly feud. He should have received the utmost punishment, but you secretly saved him in the 10,000-year spiritual liquid palace. Wang Ming, under your orders, even stole my stone mat. How can you say there is no enmity between us? Songwon was not in a hurry to take action and calmly replied, Elder Wu, Wang Ming is already dead, and you killed him with your own hands. You've already avenged yourself. As for the incident in the 10,000-year spiritual liquid palace, that was my fault, and I can compensate you with treasures. Feng Qi said. Songwon smiled slightly. If I kill you, all the treasures on your body will naturally belong to me. Don't you find it ridiculous to offer me your treasures to buy your life? Wu Shang, don't think you've already won. If I unleash all the jade light flame from the ancient Ding, you might not be able to escape unscathed either. Feng Qi said sternly. After all, the jade light flame was his only lifeline. He could only rely on the jade light flame to intimidate Songwon. Feng Qi, your remaining spiritual power is minimal. I wonder how many more times you can activate the jade light flame, Songwon said, crossing his arms with a smile. Wu Shang, are you truly intent on exterminating me? Feng Qi gritted his teeth and said. As he spoke, the spiritual power within him surged crazily toward the ancient Ding. The platinum flames immediately surged forth, shooting into the sky. The intense heat and pure yang energy swept out in all directions. Feng Qi's face twisted in a grotesque expression as he roared loudly. Wu Shang, even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Under Feng Qi's urging, the tongues of the jade light flame erupted toward Songwon's direction, seemingly ready to pour out at any moment. Incinerating him to ashes. Feng Qi's move was not genuinely intended to risk his life against Songwon. Rather, he aimed to use the might of the jade light flame to intimidate Songwon, preventing him from daring to fight to the death. Feeling the high temperature of the jade light flame and looking at the madness on Feng Qi's face, Songwon seemed both intimidated by the flame and wary of Feng Qi's fury. His expression shifted to one of fear as he quickly retreated several paces, calling out, Elder Feng, we are both from the same sect and old acquaintances. As long as you swear a soul oath not to reveal a single word about today's incident, and hand over all your spiritual items as compensation, I'll let you leave. How does that sound? Seeing Songwon relent, Feng Qi's spirits lifted, but he remained cautious. Are you serious? Songwon looked at the flickering tongues of fire, his expression wavering. Of course, I can swear a soul oath, Elder Feng. You should gather the spiritual flames first to conserve some spiritual power. Feng Qi hesitated, seemingly worried that if he gathered the flames, Songwon might take the opportunity to ambush him. Then he heard Songwon continue, to show my sincerity, I can first collect the ghosts and corpses. As soon as the words left his mouth, true to Songwon's claim, the two ghosts and three corpses were all retracted by him. Seeing this, Feng Qi's tense body involuntarily relaxed a bit. He ceased activating the jade light flame, as Songwon said. He needed to conserve his spiritual power, however, he did not retract the ancient ding containing the jade light flame. The ancient ding hovered half a foot in front of him, allowing him to activate the jade light flame again at any moment, in case. Songwon went back on his word. Chapter 338. Feng-chi flipped his palm, revealing a jade vial in his hand. He cautiously glanced at Songwon. Seeing that Songwon showed no reaction, he then opened the jade vial and took out a few recovery pills, swallowing them without hesitation. The pills he consumed were meant to restore his spiritual power. As soon as the pills entered his abdomen, he eagerly began to operate his spiritual power to refine the pills. Elder Feng, we had an agreement. All your spiritual items belong to me. You are taking recovery pills now, which should also belong to me. Songwen's voice suddenly rang out while silently refining the pills. Feng-chi smiled in reply, just a few pills, I assume Elder Wu won't mind. Songwen said, a few pills are indeed insignificant. Elder Feng, you've taken the recovery pills, hand over your storage ring. Feng-chi looked at the storage ring on his finger, hesitating slightly. What's the matter? Elder Feng, do you want to back out? Songwen asked, here you go. Feng-chi took off the storage ring and tossed it to Songwen. The situation was pressing, and he had no choice but to yield. However, Songwen did not catch the storage ring. Instead, he used his spiritual power to control it. Levitating it 100 meters away, I swear on my soul. According to the agreement he just made with Songwen, Feng-chi was about to issue his soul oath when he was suddenly interrupted by Songwen. Elder Feng, wait. You still have spiritual items that you haven't given me. Feng-chi looked bewildered. All my spiritual items are in the storage ring. What other items could I possibly have? Of course, there's the ancient ding and the jade light flame in front of you. Feng-chi was taken aback. What? You want the jade light flame? That's impossible. The jade light flame was his life-saving item. Without it, he would lose any leverage to negotiate with Songwen. Songwen replied, I can swear a soul oath first, as long as you hand over the jade light flame. I will not harm your life and will allow you to leave safely. Is that true? Feng-chi asked. Absolutely, there's no deception or concealment. As he spoke the last word, Songwen's tone suddenly became grave. A chilling aura of killing intent spread out. A large amount of blood mist began to rise from Songwen's body. The sudden change caused Feng-chi's face to drastically change. Wu Xing, you're not harboring good intentions. In that case, we'll die together. Feng-chi's face twisted with rage as he shouted hysterically. He had no idea what the blood mist that suddenly surged from Songwen was, nor did he understand what kind of technique Songwen was employing. What he did know was that Songwen would certainly unleash a thunderous strike next. The storage ring had already fallen into Songwen's hands, and he could no longer retrieve any spiritual artifacts to defend himself. Given his current state of spiritual power, he couldn't maintain any defensive artifacts for long to contend with Songwen. Thus, he made a resolute decision in his heart. Since Songwen was determined to put him to death, he wouldn't spare Songwen either. He drained all the remaining spiritual power within him, pouring it all into the ancient ding without reservation. The golden flames within the ancient ding suddenly erupted with brilliance. Feng-chi pushed both hands toward the ancient ding with great force. The ancient ding shot out, racing toward Songwen. As it was still 100 meters away from Songwen, the ancient ding suddenly tipped over. The jade light flame slid out from within the ancient ding. Originally, there was only one cauldron of jade light flame, but once it left the ancient ding, it seemed to have lost some kind of restraint. Like an uncontrolled wildfire, it spread rapidly, sweeping out in all directions. Songwen's position was also well cared for. The golden flames surged like a torrent, racing toward Songwen. Seeing the jade light flame about to engulf Songwen, Feng-chi's face suddenly brightened with joy. The blood mist surrounding Songwen became thicker, yet he had not cast any spells or activated any techniques. At this moment, it was already too late for Songwen to launch an attack. No attack could break through the sprawling jade light flame. Now was his best chance to escape. As for whether Songwen could survive the burning of the jade light flame, he had no time to consider that. Just as he prepared to activate his escape technique, he realized his spiritual power was completely depleted. Fortunately, he still had some pills in his body that had not been fully refined, and he had a vial of recovery pills in his hand. He quickly began to refine the pills. Just then, he noticed something. Songwen, who was about to be swallowed by the jade light flame, suddenly vanished into the blood mist, disappearing without a trace. What startled him even more was that the vanished Songwen reappeared right in front of him the next moment. He was only a meter away. In Songwen's right hand, there was suddenly a long sword. At that moment, Feng Qi had no storage ring left to produce any treasures and was completely drained of spiritual power. He was utterly powerless to resist Song when extended the long sword forward, effortlessly piercing through Feng Qi's chest. With a gentle twist of his right hand holding the sword, Feng Qi's chest was instantly crushed. You. Feng Qi stared at Song as if wanting to say something, but he only managed to utter one word before his breath left him. Song wasted no time. He pressed his hand against Feng Qi's forehead and began to cast the soul search technique. During the process of using the soul search technique, he couldn't help but glance back at the raging jade light flame. The jade light flame was quite powerful. It would be a pity if he couldn't collect it. He could only hope to find a method to gather it. From Feng Qi's memories, the soul searching went smoothly. Songwen learned from Feng Qi's memories that by activating the ancient ding and using the fire control technique, he could retrieve the jade light flame. The ancient ding was a high-grade spiritual artifact, and since Feng Qi was dead, it became an ownerless item, making it simple to refine, though it would take about a day. As for the fire control technique, there was a jade slip in Feng Qi's storage ring that recorded a secret method, called the Supreme Fire Control True Secret. The Supreme Fire Control True Secret was extremely profound and complicated, and it was absolutely impossible for Song to cultivate it to success in a short time. However, from the fragmentary memories obtained through the soul search, Song understood that he only needed to retrieve the jade light flame, and he didn't have to fully comprehend the Supreme Fire Control True Secret. He only needed to grasp the method for collecting fire. Song was not completely ignorant of fire control techniques. When refining pills, it was necessary to control the furnace fire. Song instructed the sacred goo to guard the upstream and downstream areas. He was multitasking, refining the ancient ding while comprehending the fire control technique. The process went relatively smoothly. 2 days later, Song finished his meditation. He began to attempt to collect the jade light flame. The jade light flame, like a rootless duckweed, was not difficult to gather back. After more than 10 attempts, Song managed to retrieve the jade light flame into the ancient ding. However, the collected jade light flame had shrunk significantly. Originally the size of a fist, the jade light flame was now only as big as a thumb. After 2 days of continuous burning without any replenishment, the jade light flame had consumed too much energy. Moreover, Songwen's fire control technique was not yet proficient, causing him to waste a lot during the collection of the jade light flame. Even so, Songwen was extremely satisfied as long as he could retain the seed of the jade light flame. There would always be a way to cultivate it back to its former strength. Songwen recalled the sacred goo and turned to leave the place. Chapter 339. In the Kanglin's secret realm beneath the dark river, in a cave formed by rocks along the riverbank, Songwen took out Ji Rushua's corpse and began to search her soul. In Ji Rushua's memories, Songwen did not acquire any useful information. Instead, he learned an interesting fact. She and her master, Yan Yuyan, had once plotted together to ambush the head of the Lei family, Lei Jun. They had obtained the first 4 thunder techniques from the 9 great thunder techniques of the Lei family. The reason they did this was, years ago, Yan Yuyan had discovered the evil extermination sword formation in an ancient ruin. The evil extermination sword formation had immense power, capable of battling above its level. However, to unleash the evil extermination sword formation, a cultivator needed to have a certain level of comprehension of sword techniques and the ability to cultivate thunder techniques. The higher the swordsmanship, the stronger the thunder techniques, and the more powerful the evil extermination sword formation would be. In the Tianyuan continent, the most powerful thunder techniques were the 9 great heavenly thunder secrets of the Lei family. After obtaining the first 4 heavenly thunder techniques, Ji Rushue also made a copy. Songwen quickly took out Ji Rushue's storage ring and began to inspect it. Moments later, 2 jade slips appeared in Songwen's hand. The first jade slip contained the first 4 thunder techniques from the 9 great heavenly thunders. Songwen's face lit up with joy. After cultivating the first 2 thunder techniques, he deeply felt the strength of the 9 great heavenly thunder secrets, and he had long coveted the complete set of techniques. However, due to his limited strength, it was difficult for him to obtain the subsequent thunder techniques from the Lei family. Now, however, he had easily acquired the 3rd and 4th heavenly thunder techniques without any effort. The second jade slip contained the cultivation method for the evil extermination sword formation. From the outline of the sword formation's secret method, Songwen learned that the sword formation had 4 levels. It corresponded perfectly to the 4 levels of Qi refinement and nascent soul. Tilen. Qi refinement, a foundation establishment, a golden core, a nascent soul. The jade slip in Songwen's hand only had the contents for the first 2 levels of the technique. It was quite remarkable that Ji Ruxue, a foundation-building cultivator, carried the first 4 thunder techniques with her. However, in her possession of the evil extermination sword formation, she only had the content for the first 2 levels. Indeed, one cherishes one's own methods while treating others with disdain. It's feared that they might leak out. The methods of others are treated as worthless. Even if they leak out, it doesn't matter. Songwen quickly skimmed through the evil extermination sword formation. His evaluation of the sword formation was that it was an extremely intricate sword formation, but the requirements for the cultivator were very high. One needed to be proficient in swordsmanship and also comprehend thunder techniques. These 2 requirements made it so that most cultivators, even if they acquired the sword formation technique, would find it impossible to cultivate. There were not many cultivators in the immortal cultivation world who could cultivate thunder techniques, and even fewer who were proficient in swordsmanship. Cultivators' lifespans, energy, and resources were limited. It was impossible for them to excel in every aspect. After putting away the evil extermination sword formation jade slip, Songwen searched Ji Rushue's storage ring for some swordsmanship cultivation techniques. In addition, there was a set of flying swords in the storage ring, totaling 9, all of which were high-grade spiritual artifacts. They were likely crafted specifically for the evil extermination sword formation. These items held little value for Songwen at the moment. He did a quick inventory and then stored them away. After that, Songwen took out Feng Qi's storage ring. Feng Qi's storage ring mostly contained cultivation techniques for fire-type secret methods and spiritual materials for cultivating fire techniques. Among them was the fire linwood that Feng Qi had obtained earlier. Then Songwen began to inspect the storage rings of Jie Hui and Jie Wu. After Jie Wu's death, his storage ring had naturally fallen into Jie Hui's hands. After Songwen killed Jie Hui, it was naturally obtained by Songwen. The techniques in these 2 storage rings were mostly about Buddhist and Taoist secret methods, which Songwen had no way to cultivate. In fact, in Jie Hui's storage ring, some secret techniques related to controlling ghostly beings were quite enlightening for Songwen. Jie Hui's prayer beads were a high-grade spiritual artifact, sealed with 5 skeletal ghost generals, all at the late 2nd stage of power. Songwen already had the top-grade ghost banner, so the prayer beads were of little use to him. However, he planned to refine the prayer beads after leaving the secret realm to transfer the 5 skeletal ghosts into the top-grade ghost banner. The human skin drum was a type of mental attack artifact, also a high-grade spiritual artifact. Songwen was very interested in this treasure. He immediately began the refinement process. A day later, the human skin drum was successfully refined. It is worth mentioning that Songwen obtained 4 bottles of 10,000-year spiritual liquid from Ji Ruxue, Jie Hui, and Jie Wu's storage rings. Jie Hui's storage ring contained 2 bottles, adding his own bottle. He now had 5 bottles of 10,000-year spiritual liquid. After hastily organizing his belongings, Songwen left the cave. The Kanglin's secret realm had been open for nearly 10 days, and he had yet to find Yin Yang Blood Weeping Branch. He needed to act quickly. Songwen planned to first collect the Yin Yang Blood Weeping Branch discovered by Jie Hui. He retraced his steps along the route he had taken, intending to return to the cave where the 10,000-year spiritual liquid hall was located. Although it took some time, it was much better than aimlessly wandering in the vast underground river, relying on luck to search for the Yin Yang Blood Weeping Branch in the pitch-black underground river. Both vision and spiritual awareness were severely restricted. Despite having the sacred Gu lead the way, Songwen still advanced very cautiously. Thus, His speed of travel could not be fast. After more than an hour, he returned to the bank of the underground river he first saw when he exited the labyrinth. Suddenly, Song-Wen vaguely heard the sound of splashing water in the distance. It sounded like something was diving sharply into the water. The sound came from across the dark river. This underground river was over a mile wide, the water flowing tumultuously and making a loud splashing noise. Therefore, Song-Wen did not hear the splashing sound clearly. He raised his eyes to look at the opposite bank. The other side was pitch black, and for a moment, Song-Wen did not see anything unusual. Splash. Another loud splashing sound rang out, with Song-Wen listening intently. This time he heard it very clearly. The sound came from about 3 miles downstream on the opposite bank. Song-Wen also vaguely saw a huge figure. Over 2 zheng, approximately 6.5 meters, leaping out of the water. The enormous figure landed on the riverbank, crawling forward on all fours, moving upstream, as if chasing something. Song-Wen focused his gaze. Indeed, in front of the gigantic figure, at a distance of about 2 to 3 meters, there was a small, thin figure flying through the air. This slender figure was dressed in a black outfit, nearly blending into the surrounding dark environment. This was why Song-Wen had not noticed it earlier. It seems that a cultivator has provoked a beast and is fleeing for their life, Song-Wen thought to himself. He did not want to get involved in trouble, so he concealed his presence, hiding behind a pile of rubble. He then sent a sacred gu to the opposite bank to scout the situation. Song-Wen flowed down the river. While the two on the opposite bank were moving upstream, they were headed directly towards each other. When the sacred gu reached the opposite bank, it managed to clearly see the fleeing person's appearance. It was Rong Jingyun. Chapter 340. Rong Jingyun was in a bad state. She bore severe injuries, her breathing was erratic, and she looked as though her spiritual energy had been excessively depleted. Because of this, she was desperately fleeing from a late-stage, 7th-level demonic beast. Song-Wen's expression lit up. Rong Jingyun held clues leading to the frigid cave within the cold pool. She had escaped from the cave through an underwater passageway, so she must know the shortcut to the cave. Senior Rong, don't panic. I'll lend you a hand. Song-Wen immediately stopped concealing himself and shouted across the distance. Before he even finished speaking, he leaped into the air, speeding toward the other side. Rong Jingyun trembled slightly when she heard Song-Wen's voice, her expression showing surprise. She was astonished to meet Song-Wen here and equally surprised that he would step forward to help her, but she didn't slow down. She wasn't about to trust Song-Wen so easily just because of a few words, though she had a bit of a relationship with Song-Wen. It was hardly the kind that would justify him risking his life for her. It was only when Song-Wen launched his Thunder Spear technique to attack the demonic beast that she stopped her escape. 3 thunder spears shot toward the beast. The demonic beast raised a forepaw, swatting away 2 of the spears. Only one struck its head. In an instant, lightning flashed. With the silver light of the electric flash, Song-Wen could finally see the beast in full. It was a pangolin-like creature, its body covered in dark gray scales, with a flat snout lined with fine, sharp teeth and limbs equipped with sharp claws. This creature, known as the burrowing beast, is a demonic beast that commonly burrows underground. It is skilled at breaking through soil and rock and has a taste for blood. The thunder spear didn't harm the burrowing beast. Instead, it stirred up its ferocity. Its mouth opened wide and a barbed tongue shot out, darting towards Song-Wen. Song-Wen called forth his turtle snake shield, positioning it in front of him. Boom. The long tongue slammed into the shield like a massive spiked club, causing Song-Wen to stagger back. He darted sideways, moving closer to Rong Jingyun. Senior Rong, this creature is strong. I can't handle it alone. As he spoke, Song-Wen fired off 3 more thunder spears to prevent the burrowing beast from getting closer. The thunder spears he launched this time were barely half the length of his usual ones, lacking their typical power. The burrowing beast raised its forepaw and swatted the thunder spears, shattering them into countless tiny sparks. At that moment, a flying sword suddenly struck. Distracted by the thunder spears, the burrowing beast was momentarily caught off guard. And the sword pierced its right eye, causing blood to gush out. The flying sword was Rong Jingyun's. She intended to use it to penetrate the beast's skull through its eye socket, delivering a lethal blow. The burrowing beast's scales were exceptionally hard, and its eyes were one of its few weak spots. However, the burrowing beast reacted quickly, jerking its head to knock against the flying sword. As its sturdy scales clashed with the flying sword, sparks flew, sending the sword careening off. The beast's remaining left eye gleamed with a fierce light, glaring at Rong Jingyun with savage intensity. Then, with a sudden turn, it leaped into the river with a splash and escaped underwater. Rong Jingyun, anxious at this sight, urged her sword to strike into the water. But it was all in vain. This left Rong Jingyun deeply frustrated. However, she did pursue it. She was well aware of her current condition. Fighting alone, she could not possibly defeat the burrowing beast. If she were at her peak, the sword that blinded the beast's eye would have been enough to shred its brain and take its life. Songwon looked at Rong Jingyun, his face filled with surprise and admiration. Senior Rong, your strength truly runs deep. With a single sword, you managed to drive away the burrowing beast. Rong Jingyun gazed at Songwon and replied, Elder Wu, let's be frank with each other. I have a request and hope you can lend your full support. Don't hide your own strength any longer. Given your displayed abilities, you should have easily dealt with a mere second-level, late-stage burrowing beast back at the 10,000-year Spirit Liquid Hall. Songwon dropped his surprised look and asked, what does Senior Rong need from me? Conveniently, I also have a request where I could use your help. Rong Jingyun responded, I want your help to rescue my husband. What happened to Elder Hung? Songwon inquired, my husband was injured by the monks of the Mixed Yuan Temple and has been unconscious. After escaping from those monks' clutches, we hid in an underground stone cave to treat his injuries unexpectedly. That burrowing beast we saw just now barged into the cave and tried to devour both of us. I'm also injured, so I couldn't defeat the burrowing beast and had to flee in haste. In my rush, I couldn't bring my husband with me. Songwon replied, pardon my frankness, but with Elder Hung injured and unguarded, by the time we get there it may be too late. By then he may have already met a tragic end. Senior Rong, you're also heavily wounded. Let's first tend to your injuries. I'll stand guard for you. Rong Jingyun shook her head, her face full of urgency. No, my husband is inside the flame-light cauldron, which is protecting him. The burrowing beast won't be able to harm him right away. Elder Wu, I beg you, help me save my husband. I fear that if we delay any longer, the burrowing beast may break through the flame-light cauldron and then he will be in grave danger. Songwon gave Rong Jingyun a strange look. Although the flame-light cauldron was indeed powerful, capable of both offense and defense, it was, after all, an alchemical furnace. Placing an injured person inside seemed more like refining them than healing them. You aren't trying to heal him, you're trying to refine him, aren't you? Since Rong Jingyun had already exposed his true strength, Songwon stopped hiding. I can help you save Elder Hung, but you must tell me the location of the hidden path to the Cold Pool Cave. Rong Jingyun looked at Songwon in shock. How did you know I had been to the Cold Pool Cave? Songwon replied, Master Jie Hui from Mixed Yuan Temple informed me. Jie Hui? Rong Jingyun felt a pang of suspicion. There was no reason for Jie Hui to reveal what had happened in the Cold Pool Cave to Songwon without reason. Could it be? Has Jie Hui already? At that thought, Rong Jingyun looked at Songwon with a hint of caution. The Cold Pool Cave is occupied by a stinging mother beast. Why would you go there? Unless you're after. Rong Jingyun's face turned slightly incredulous. The only reason Songwon would inquire about the Cold Pool Cave was to seek the Yin-Yang Blood Weeping Branch within. To obtain the Yin-Yang Blood Weeping Branch, one would have to defeat the stinging mother beast. However, even 3 Peak Foundation establishment cultivators, including Jie Hui, had failed to overcome the stinging mother beast. How could Wu Xing dare to covet the Yin-Yang Blood Weeping Branch within the Cold Pool Cave all on his own? Noting Rong Jingyun's astonished expression, Songwon said, Please, Senior Rong, don't mention this matter to anyone. Though Songwon's tone was calm, Rong Jingyun couldn't help but shudder, as if she were being watched by a primeval beast. Rest assured, Elder Wu, I can swear an oath on my soul not to disclose your cultivation strength or any matters related to the Cold Pool Cave. A smile appeared on Songwen's face and he nodded. That's excellent. He bore no grudge against Rong Jingyun. Other than a bottle of 10,000-year spirit liquid, she possessed nothing that he desired. Besides, he already had 5 bottles of spirit fluid on hand. Better to do her a favor, help rescue Hung Chong, and obtain the hidden path to the Cold Pool Cave from her. This way, Songwon could save significant time. As for killing Rong Jingyun and using soul-searching techniques, Songwon had considered it. However, soul-searching techniques were unreliable, often yielding fragmented and random memories. Soul-searching wouldn't necessarily provide the exact memory he needed.